Hey, that picture you just took, it was kind of a private moment. You mind deleting it? Take it down.
Make me.
Meet Dan. He is a car salesman with brilliant communication skills, which consistently earns him the Salesman of the Month title, making others jealous. He's all about living a simple, quiet life.
Hi, Mrs. Overmeyer.
Hey, Daniel.
And is excited about an anniversary getaway with his wife Jessica. Together, they have 3 kids, Nina, Kyle, and little Max. But things aren't always peaceful at home. Nina and Kyle often fight, raising the stress levels in the house. Dan is especially annoyed by Kyle's obsession with PC gaming and keeps pushing him to get outside more. Meanwhile, Nina's sudden urge to change college majors, influenced by her boyfriend, worries him. Despite Dan's efforts to steer them in the right direction, his advice is often ignored. Kyle secretly streams Valorant from a friend's place to avoid his dad's lectures, and Nina, determined to make her own choices, believes she's too grown up for her father's boomer talks. While the family eagerly look forward to their annual trip to the carnival, Jessica finds herself craving more excitement and fun in their lives beyond their usual routine. You know what I mean. After a thrilling roller coaster ride, Dan promises to add a bit more unpredictability to their future adventures. However, their tender moment is suddenly disrupted when a stranger snaps a photo of them kissing and posts it online, mocking Dan and asking what he's going to do about it. The situation escalates when the man spills his drink on Dan and insults Jessica.
How'd a loser like him get a girl as fine as you?
Despite the clear provocation, Dan chooses to walk away, avoiding violence. Jessica says she didn't want Dan to fight, but deep down, she starts questioning his manhood. At home, the confrontation lingers in Dan's mind, making him feel like he has to hold back. Meanwhile, Jessica finds a release in boxing, and when she accidentally lands a knockout punch on her sparring partner, it unexpectedly leads to a new friendship over smoothies. Her new friend, Gwen, also a travel agent, becomes Jessica's sounding board. Over their smoothie chats, Jessica confesses her frustrations. She loves Dan as a husband and father, but their life is so vanilla, lacking some fun. While out shopping with Max, Dan's instincts kick in when he notices a suspicious man seemingly watching him. When the guy makes his move, Dan, ever the protective dad, springs into action. Despite having Max by his side, Dan smoothly takes down the would-be attacker, leaving the locals in shock. Even his neighbors start to see Dan in a whole new light, wondering if their friendly car salesman has a secret side hustle in superhero work. At home, Dan unlocks a hidden compartment, revealing a stash of guns, outdated passports, and a stack of cash. Definitely not your typical dad gear. Alarmed, he immediately contacts Augie, an old associate, to arrange new identities for his family. Clearly, they're in some serious trouble. Augie suspects that Dan's old boss, McCaffrey, is behind this and urges Dan to vanish fast. Turns out, Dan isn't just a top car salesman, he's also a former assassin, and he's kept this little detail under wraps from his family. It looks like McCaffrey might have tracked him down after that picture from the carnival. Dan then heads to find Nina at her editorial meeting, only to discover that she quit 3 months ago. After a little persuasion, her friend spills the beans, and Dan finds Nina sulking under the bleachers, upset about abandoning her dream. But there's no time for heart-to-hearts. They need to grab her brother from the chess club. However, Dan is less than thrilled when he finds Kyle not at chess, but at the neighbor's house, gaming away on his secret setup. Playing it cool, Dan tells the kids they're taking a surprise trip to Vegas. But it's clear that this family vacation is going to be anything but ordinary. While Jessica is in the middle of work, Dan convinces her to finally take that spontaneous trip she's been dreaming about. Though she's initially hesitant, her excitement builds as they prepare to leave. But just as they're about to drive out of the parking lot, McCaffrey's men are already on their tail. As the bus passes by, Dan expertly dodges the pursuers, keeping his cool so his family doesn't suspect a thing. It's no easy feat when you're being tracked by a satellite, but Dan manages to outmaneuver them. He pulls into his workplace, quickly shuts the gates on the pursuers, and hoists the car up to find the tracker. Timing it perfectly, he hides just as the bad guys zoom past, completely missing him and the car. The family is still blissfully unaware of the danger. Thinking fast, Dan sticks the tracker onto his colleague's car and casually suggests they take it for a spin on the highway. The trick works, and the pursuers chase after the wrong car. With 33 hours until they're clear, Dan realizes his stupid wife and kids are busy tweeting and posting about their fun trip. To keep things on the down low, Dan confiscates everyone's phones, turning this into an unexpected device-free vacation. The only catch? Without GPS, they have no idea how to get there. At the travel agency, after a little extra persuasion, the clerk digs up some old maps to guide them on their way. Surprisingly, for the first time in a long while, the family starts genuinely bonding during the trip. Meanwhile, McCaffrey personally inspects Dan's house, confident that the family is still clueless about the danger they're in. He's just waiting for one of them to slip up. Later, while Kyle is chatting with his sister, a stranger recognizes him from his streaming career and asks for a picture. Dan spots Kyle snapping selfies with the fan and realizes they need to keep moving before McCaffrey catches up. With more of McCaffrey's men on their tail, Dan spots 3 of them closing in. As his family sleeps soundly, like seriously, the heaviest sleepers ever, Dan cranks up their headphones and prepares for action. A bullet shatters his mirror, but he manages to take down one of the pursuers, narrowly avoiding a crash. With some quick moves, the third guy goes flying off the road, all while Dan's family remains blissfully asleep. After driving all night, Dan finally gets a chance to close his eyes, but by then, his family is wide awake. Just half a mile away from the college Nina dreams of attending, she insists on checking it out. The campus is gorgeous, buzzing with festivities, and even Jessica gets in on the action, impressing everyone with her keg stand skills. Nina can't help but think that's pretty awesome, but Nina has another reason for visiting the campus. Her boyfriend Trevor goes to school there. During the campus tour, Dan's suspicions flare up when he sees a German man on his phone, thinking he might be one of McCaffrey's operatives. But Dan's paranoia gets the better of him, and before he knows it, he's attacked by someone else entirely. They battle it out in the chemistry lab, and after a brief struggle, Dan manages to knock the guy out and quickly reunites with his family to keep moving. Meanwhile, Nina sneaks off to see Trevor, only to catch him cheating on her.
You're cheating on me.
Monogamy is just a construct of our Western repressive civilization.
Heartbroken, she returns in tears, but Dan is there to teach her a martial arts move, giving her the satisfaction of using it on Trevor. It lifts her spirits, and for the first time, she starts to really appreciate her family. Back on the road, the family's bond strengthens even more. As Nina takes the wheel, she thanks Dan for always being there for her, and starts thinking about reclaiming her editorial position at school. When they stop at a small motel, the parents finally start banging to cool down the stress. Jessica can't help but fall in love with this Sigma side of Dan, though she senses something different about him. Meanwhile, Dan discreetly contacts Augie, who's on his way to deliver new identities for the family, a detail Dan still hasn't shared with them yet. As he sneaks back the phone he had swiped earlier, Dan tries to prepare himself for the big reveal. Before he can do that, Kyle joins him, and the two finally have a heart-to-heart about Kyle's streaming career. Turns out, Kyle's not just good, he's
pro-level good.
To settle things, they decide to duke it out over a game of laser tag. They bet on it, first to 3 kills. This should be easy for Dan, considering his ex-assassin skills. He quickly scores the first and second tags, but Kyle surprises him by leveling the score with 2 hits of his own. In the end though, Dan manages to clinch the last point. Kyle feels a bit conned, but the game brings them closer than ever. Finally arriving in the Sin City, Las Vegas, the family checks into one of the city's top suites. But before settling in, Dan quickly heads downstairs to meet with Augie, who hands over their new identities and a one-way ticket to Vancouver. For a hefty price, of course. Dan knows he needs to tell Jessica the truth, so he plans to do it over a romantic dinner while the kids babysit Max. He warns them not to leave the suite under any circumstances, but of course the stupid kids never listen. Meanwhile, McCaffrey's men are closing in on Dan's location. Kyle, enjoying his fame as a popular gamer, sneaks off to the HyperX gaming arena and even gets recognized. He's thrilled to meet Valkyrie, who invites him to join her team for the Valorant finals. As Kyle single-handedly dominates the competition, Nina finds herself getting cozy with one of the gamers who gave up his spot for her brother. Back at the dinner, Dan tries to come clean to Jessica, but every attempt is interrupted. He decides to postpone the conversation and suggests they go gambling instead. After a while, Dan gets a bad feeling and tries to check on the kids, but his call goes unanswered. Rushing back to the suite, Jessica is fooled by dummies into thinking the kids are asleep, which temporarily eases Dan's mind. She heads to freshen up, turning on some romantic music and setting the mood for a quiet evening, oblivious to the chaos brewing outside. Just as Dan and Jessica are about to have their romantic evening and start preparing for their second round, McCaffrey's men strike. Oh, what a perfect time for them to come. Dan reacts quickly, throwing vodka and shooting it to set the assailants on fire, but Jessica is taken hostage. Dan puts down his gun, but secretly grabs a knife. The assailant taunts him, calling him Sean, which hits Jessica hard. While the guy's busy yapping, Dan takes him down. Jessica rushes to find the kids, but only discovers the dummies Dan had set up. Knowing she has to head to HyperX, the one place Kyle's been obsessing over. She heads there. Kyle manages to rack up 30 kills before the game ends. As their parents arrive to pick them up, Dan finally reveals his secret. He's a former covert assassin, and his ex-colleagues are trying to kill him. The kids are skeptical until the shooting starts. Taking cover behind a car, Dan takes down one of McCaffrey's men, but her vest keeps her alive. A quick round 2 ensues, and Dan comes clean about his past as McCaffrey's mercenary and his 42 kills. Kyle is upset, feeling betrayed, and realizing why Dan was so opposed to leaving the city and social media. Dan hands them their new identities. Nina becomes Molly, and Kyle becomes Van. After 18 years of deception, the family is furious. Jessica decides to leave Dan, taking responsibility for the kids. She calls Gwen for help, while Dan is left guarding the perimeter until morning. Despite Dan's urgent warnings about McCaffrey coming after them, Jessica insists that Dan should just make things safe and stay away. When Jessica arrives, she finds out that Gwen is not only powerful, but seems to have connections with McCaffrey. Gwen reveals she's been waiting for Jessica's arrival to set a trap, having manipulated her with stories about her ex. Jessica has been duped. McCaffrey, now directly involved, calls Dan to reveal that his family is in captivity. He arranges a meeting at an abandoned hotel. Surrounded by his henchmen, Dan, clearly outnumbered, arrives at the penthouse to find McCaffrey, who sarcastically asks for a hug. It turns out McCaffrey is actually Dan's father.
I'm sorry, what?
I'm your grandfather, Kyle.
McCaffrey wanted Dan dead because he abandoned him, but Dan has already taken out every man McCaffrey sent after him. McCaffrey offers a grim ultimatum: return to work for him and he'll release the family. Refuse, and they die. Dan has no choice but to agree. Meanwhile, the kids, having just turned on Dan, now want Jessica to protect him. Kyle presses elevator buttons in a childish display of anxiety. As Jessica tries to convince the kids not to abandon Dan, she cleverly uses Max's diaper as a weapon, shoving it in a bad guy's face and tossing him out to his death. Determined to save their dad, the family sets out to get him back. While McCaffrey heads off to make arrangements, Gwen tries to win Dan back with her charms, completely ignoring the tech guy. She's familiar with Dan's tactics and knows how to play him. Meanwhile, the family is on a rescue mission. Dan manages to put Gwen to sleep and then captures the tech guy. He apologizes to Jessica for the secrets and vows to always tell her the truth, aiming to be both a loving husband and father. McCaffrey, realizing something's amiss, starts to get suspicious. The tech guy, who turns out to be a fan of Kyle, introduces him to a drone. Kyle uses the drone to help Dan, showcasing Dan's impressive tech skills. With McCaffrey's henchmen closing in, Dan instructs his family to head to the roof while he handles the intruders. Kyle, using the drone as his eyes and ears, guides Dan through the chaos. Despite being outnumbered, Dan skillfully takes down the henchmen, dodging bullets from automatic rifles. McCaffrey, noticing the drone's assistance, wakes Gwen to locate the family. Dan pleads with his father to call off the attack, but McCaffrey remains relentless. As the elevator ascends, Jessica hides the kids and takes a stand. Gwen, confident in her hand-to-hand combat skills, taunts Jessica. Kyle reports that there are still 9 henchmen left. Dan deals with them one by one, bemused by their poor aim. McCaffrey, though proud of his men, eventually shoots down the drone, but not before Dan and his family make their final stand. Meanwhile, in the prolonged catfight, Gwen emerges victorious, burying Jessica under a pile of rubble. McCaffrey takes advantage of the situation, knocking Dan down and preparing to finish him off, but he can't resist boasting about how weak Dan has become due to his family. As Gwen corners the kids, Jessica finds renewed strength to lift the debris, though she's still thrown around like a ragdoll. Dan, meanwhile, cleverly removes the bullets from McCaffrey's gun, forcing them into a hand-to-hand battle. Jessica grabs a bamboo stick and attempts an athletic jump, but fails spectacularly. Gwen, finding it amusing, expects another try, but Jessica, in a desperate move, throws the stick, ending Gwen's reign. McCaffrey, now with a loaded gun, prepares to end Dan for good. Just as he's about to pull the trigger, the family bursts in. Nina, with heartfelt sincerity, tells McCaffrey that they don't hate him, and that family is the most important thing in life, even including him as her grandpa.
Family is the most important thing in the entire world.
This emotional plea buys Dan enough time to act. In the end, the family is reunited, and the cops arrive to take McCaffrey into custody. 6 months later, Nina is a renowned journalist. Dan runs a security firm training clients in self-defense, with Augie on the team. Jessica is a coach, and Kyle continues streaming. The family prepares for a major journey, loading up a rented RV for a cross-country road trip to get Nina to Stanford. Well, that's a wrap on our epic spy adventure. What was your favorite scene from the movie? Drop your top pick in the comments and let's chat about it.